students, this next portion of our bowling ball scene, we're going to use that curve to create a three-dimensional mesh, and we will add some surface materials, we'll make it reflective and create those red stripes. Are you ready? Let's do it. We are going to open up that version 2 that you created of your curve, and right away we'll save that as version 3. That way that curve that you created will be safe in version 2. In case you mess up version 3, you can always go back and reopen version 2 and start over. I'm going to show you a quick shortcut for how to go into View Frame Selected to zoom in on whatever object you have selected. It's also shortcut numpad, not or the decimal point. I'm also going to show you how to take that curve and go to Object, Convert to a Mesh Object. And we're going to tick the Keep the Original Curve in the Operator panel so that we still have that original curve there, just in case, once again, we mess up and we want to go back to it. As I said, the first thing we'll do is open Recent and look for your version 2. And this is where we ended off. We had that beautiful curve that if I hit Tab, I can see that lovely curve, and then we had that reference image of our bowling pin in the background. So we don't need that reference image anymore, but let's go ahead, like I said, let's save right away version 3 so that we can keep this beautiful curve safe in version 2. So File, Save As, and you're just going to change the 2 to a 3. Make sure it says dot blend, that you don't have anything at the end. It shouldn't say dot blend 1, and then click Save As. Let's say then I decide I don't need this reference material anymore, and that was the empty, remember? And we could rename the empty, add reference image to it. We can hide that by clicking on the eye. And so now all I see is the lovely curve. I want to teach you a little shortcut. If you go to View and Frame Selected, you'll notice the shortcut is numpad dot, decimal or not, whatever you want to call it. Frame Selected will give you a quick zoom in on whatever it is that you have selected. So that's a great little shortcut. So go ahead and practice zooming out and then hit the little not or dot on your number pad and it brings you right in. Next, I want you to go Object, Convert to a Mesh Object. And you can go up here to the Object menu and find Convert to down here at the bottom and Mesh here. So Convert to a Mesh, and it's got that upside down triangle, or you can right click and find the Convert to Mesh right here. So there's two ways to get the object menu. Now that we have the Convert to Mesh, don't touch anything except down here. You have an operator panel. Remember, these little panels show up once. If you click on anything else, they go away and you can never get back to them. You'll have to Control Z and go back and do Convert to Mesh again. It says our target is to convert it to a mesh. That's what we want. But I also want you to click on this Keep Original box right here. And what that did is over here in our outliner, you'll notice that I added, it added a Bezier curve .001, and it has the upside down triangle. So that's our mesh. And then the one with the curve, that's our curves. I'm going to rename the Bezier curve. I'm going to call that the pin curve. And then I'm going to rename this one right here my pin mesh. That's just how I want to remember their names. That's the first step. And you can go ahead and save those changes. So you can go File, Save. Next, you're going to create your pin, and we're going to use the spin tool to do that. We're going to make sure that we're in edit mode. We're going to click A to select all vertices. We're going to click the plus to activate the operator panel, and you'll see what I mean by that in a moment. You're going to set your angle to 360 degrees, and you're going to make sure that your pin has about 16 steps, and I'll explain why. We're going to talk about occlusion. This is where you can see the shape outline when there's not enough geometry. It's low poly, it's a little choppy looking, it's not smooth. If you go more than 16 steps, it may be too high poly. Your computer might not be able to handle all the geometry that would create, and it could cause it to crash, work really slowly. It might not render it. Make sure that you're choosing geometry that suits the speed of your computer. We are going to make sure that we don't have any duplicates or doubles. That's what happens when we merge some vertices together. We want to get rid of those doubles. We're going to turn on smooth shading to admire the pin. So smooth shading, remember, is under Object. So we're going to use the spin tool to model our pin using the curve. I've got the curve selected, that's great. I'm gonna have to switch into edit mode. That's the first thing we have to do. Tab is the shortcut to edit mode. Now that I'm in edit mode, I don't have anything selected. That's why we have to hit the letter A, and that will select all. Now that we have all of that selected, I can find down here this pie, and that is the spin tool. So click on the spin tool, and there's that plus I was talking about. You're gonna click on the plus, and when you do, look at the bottom left, the operator panel shows up. Remember, these operator panels are a one-time deal. They go away if you click on anything else in your window. So while you have the operator panel, I'm just gonna set this step. It's automatically set at 9. I'll leave it at 9. The angle's at 360 because I've already been playing around with it, but if yours isn't, and it won't be, you're gonna have to type in 360 and hit enter. I wanna make sure that you have that auto merge button on. Hopefully when those vertices come together, it's going to merge them. Now, this is what yours would have looked like if you didn't have the angle on there already. Remember, you could still see the curve. You could have gone 90 degrees, and 90 degrees is going to give you a quarter of your pin. If you go 180 degrees, that's going to give you half of a pin. That could be helpful if you were trying to make a bowl or something. Or if you go to 70, this is geometry here, you're going to get 3/4 of a pin. And if I go 360, I'm going to get that full pin. Now, where these vertices came and merged together here, I'm not entirely sure if there's duplicates there or not. And I'm going to show you how to get rid of those duplicates if there are any. First, before we do that, I just want to show you what happens when we hit smooth. You can click off anywhere outside of that box, and then you can hit tab to go into object mode. Now I can right click and I can do shade smooth. Remember that right click brings you that object menu. You can also find shade smooth under the object menu if you manually click there. It's easier to find it when you right click. Shade smooth, but I don't have anything selected. Select your object, then right click and shade smooth, and you'll notice that it looks really pretty now. However, when I look at it from the top, I have what's called occlusion. Remember, we only had 9 steps, and so I can really see the outline of that geometry, and I don't want that to be so obvious when the pins are falling. So that is the reason why I'm going to go back, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Just go right back to the beginning where you had your curve. Hit A, select all, click your plus. So it's set at 16 now. Now you've got your 16 steps, which means it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way around 16. And if we hit tab and go into our object mode and right click shade smooth, now when we look from the top, you don't have as much occlusion. It's still a little rough, but when it's there in your image, you're not going to see that as much. So that looks great. Now remember, you could try to increase that above 16 and make it look really smooth, but then you're getting really high poly, a lot of geometry, and your computer's going to slow right down and it might not even render. I just hit my dot on my number pad so that it would frame my pin nicely. Tab, hit A to select all. I want to get my search option open because I'm going to try to get rid of these duplicates. I'm going to merge any duplicate vertices that I might have from when we spun that around. The F3 button is going to bring up your search bar. When you have that pulled up, you're just going to hit merge and you'll get this merge by distance option. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to allow you enter in a distance, and any 2 vertices that are within that distance are going to merge. So I might just bring it up one little place, and I will know that if there were any vertices that were super close together, that they have merged now and I don't have any duplicates. And I'll click off of that now. I'm going to go ahead and hit tab so that I am in my beautiful object mode, and I will save. File, save as, and let's change version 3 now to version 4, and then click save as, and I'll meet you in the next part. Okay, so now that you have version 4 saved, we're going to add the red stripes. Hide the tool shelf by clicking T, the shortcut, and hide the transform tools by clicking N. Set the shading to the materials view, and there's a shortcut for that, Z and then 2. We will add a new material. We're going to name it pin. We'll adjust the roughness so that it creates a nice reflective surface. We are going to go to the shading drop-down menu, and we're going to show the difference between the different shading worlds that there are. We'll add a new material slot, And this one is going to have the same shiny properties as the pin. We're going to name it Pinstripes and change the base color to red unless you want a different stripe color. Select some stripes using the face select, Alt and click, Shift to add more, Alt and click, and then we'll assign the pinstripe material. So this will make sense in just a sec. Let's go ahead and hide the tool shelf by hitting T and hide the transform box by hitting N as in Nancy. We're going to set the shading up here from solid mode over to material, and you can click on that, or there's a shortcut, Z, and you can click the number 2 or click on here the material view. So next we're going to apply a new material. I'm going to slide the properties box out a little bit more and look for that little beach ball that when you hover your cursor by it says material properties, and click new. And click in this little black box right here and type in pin. So this is going to be the material of the pin, and yes, I want it to be white, but I want it to be really reflective. So I'm going to go over to roughness. I'm going to scroll down to it. Now pay attention here. As I grab and just click and hold and drag this slider down, it's going to start to get more and more reflective. So I'm going to slide that down until it's about 1. In fact, I'm just going to type, not 1, 0.1. 0.1. If you do 1, it's going to be all the way to the right, which means that there will be no reflection. So I'm going to type 0.1. It's nice and shiny now. And the next thing I wanted to do was take you up here to this little drop down box under shading and look at these worlds. Just click on that box right there, and when you click on that, it brings up these other world options. So go through those, and I'm going to just see the difference in the reflective properties depending on which world I have selected. So basically the pin is reflecting that world. And I really like that super bright one. So the next thing we're going to do is add a material slot for the pinstripes, which we want to be red, but we still want to be shiny and reflective like the pin. So just scroll up to the very top, and you're going to click this little plus over here to add a new slot. Now we are not going to click new, and if you already did that, then you might want to hit Control Z and go back and start over. You're going to hit the drop down box to browse and click on the pin material. The pin has all the same properties as the other pin. Now, normally you think you're going to click here and name that pinstripe, but no, you're not. You're going to come over here and click on this 2. Click the 2. Now you'll notice that this new material has a new name. Now that it has a new name, you can name it what you want. We're going to call it pinstripe. Okay? So now that you have a new material, a new name for it, you can click on the base color down here, and you can pick red if you want to go with red, which I do. Now we just have to select some stripes. I want you to remember that there are these things called edge select that you can do, or you can do face select and select loops. To select loops, you are going to hold down Alt and click on whatever it is you're wanting to select, whether that be a vertex, edge, or a face. Okay, it's Alt. And then you can always do G to move your edge loop up or down, or you can also hit Z so that you can isolate that movement along the Z axis. Let's bring up our empty reference image by clicking on the eye, and I'm going to hit 1 so I'm in front view. I can see that this is where I want my stripes to be. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and use my hand and pan down a little bit so I can see really well what I'm doing. Then I want to hit tab to go back into edit mode, and I can see which one of these loops aligns best with the stripes. And it looks like this top loop right here should probably be red. So to do that, you're just going to select the face select option right here, and then if you hold down Alt and click, it will select that entire loop. Okay, and you can see that whole loop is selected. I can hit 1 and come back to front view. Now that I have that selected, as long as over in my materials panel I have the pinstripe selected, I can click assign, and that will make that loop red. Now I need to grab that bottom edge though and bring it up a little bit. So as I was saying, I can go over here to edge select, and I can hold down the Alt, and when I click on that bottom edge, it selects that edge. This is where I hit G and Z to isolate that movement and drag that up a little bit. And then maybe I even feel like I want to be more precise and I want to hold down Alt and click on that top loop and hit G and Z and pull that down a little bit so that my stripe matches really well with my reference image. Next, let's just toggle really quick into object mode. So hit Tab so you can see how pretty that is, and you can hide your reference image for a second and go, wow, that looks good. Okay, bring that reference image back. Hit Tab for edit mode, 1 for orthographic front view. Zoom in here. We need to grab this edge loop and by holding down Alt and clicking, and let's G and grab it to move it up. But remember, why do I hit Z? Because I don't want it doing this. So I'm going to hit Z, slide it up, and now grab this bottom one, Alt, click, G, Z, slide it up. And now I need to go into face select mode, hold down Alt, and that will select the whole loop and assign that pinstripe color. Ta-da! Let's go ahead and hit Tab. And bam, look at that beautiful, gorgeous bowling pin that matches up perfectly with our reference material. That's fantastic. Let's hide the reference material. Perfect. Can you go File, Save As, and change that to version 5? And then Save As. And that is your lesson for today. Good job.